Greetings to all. I am Eliquilin Rosley. Today, our group, which is Group 3, will be presenting our topic entitled Mass Disasters and Childhood Trauma, focusing on the 2023 Turkey-Syria earthquake. When discussing natural disasters, people often focus on the physical destruction such as damaged buildings, loss of property, and fatalities. However, from a developmental psychology perspective, the psychological effect can be equally serious, especially for children. This is because children are still developing emotionally, cognitively, social, and physically. As a result, traumatic experience during childhood may affect not only their current well-being but also their future development. Therefore, this presentation aims to examine how the Turkey-Syria earthquake affected children psychologically and developmentally. We will also discuss the factors that increase children's vulnerability, the theories that explain these impacts, and the strategies that can help children recover and build resilience. Next, we will move on to an overview of the Turkey-Syria earthquake. On 6 February 2023, two devastating earthquakes measuring 7.8 and 7.5 magnitude struck Turkey and northern Syria. The disaster caused widespread destruction, displaced millions of people, and result in significant loss of life. Children were among the most severely affected groups. Many lost family members, homes, school, and access to essential service. More importantly, they lost the sense of safety and stability that is crucial for healthy development. This is significant because children rely heavily on secure environments to support their emotional growth, learning, and social relationships. When these environments are disrupted, the impact can extend far beyond the disaster itself. I will now pass the presentation to Sylvie.
Thank you, Eli. Hello, I'm Sylvie Priskayuta, and I will explain childhood trauma, the effect of trauma, and psychosocial risk factor. Childhood trauma refers to the emotional and psychological reaction that occur when children experience events that overwhelm their ability to cope. In the case of the Turkey-Syria earthquake, many children were exposed to threatening situations such as witnessing injuries, death, collapsing building, displacement, and the loss of loved one. What makes children trauma particularly concerning is that children often lack the emotional maturity and coping skills needed to process such experience. Consequently, traumatic events can influence how children think, feel, and behave long after the disaster has ended. Besides that, it will lead to the effect of trauma. The earthquake resulted in a wide range of psychological and emotional difficulties among children. Many experience anxiety, depression, fear, sadness, and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD For example, some children reported recurring nightmare, fear of entering building, and constant worries that another earthquake might occur. This reaction demonstrates how trauma and alter a children's perception of safety and security. If left unaddressed, these emotional difficulties may interfere with children's ability to regulate emotions, develop healthy relationships, and participate effectively in daily activities. In addition to trauma itself, children were exposed to several psychosocial risk factors. These included direct exposure to danger, loss of family members, caregiver stress, school disruption, displacement, and limited access to support services. What is important to understand is that these risk factors rarely occur in isolation. Instead, many children experience several of them simultaneously. The accumulation of multiple risk factors significantly increases the likelihood of emotional distress and developmental difficulties, making recovery more challenging. I would now like to invite Li Wenxuan to continue.
Thank you, Sylvie. Hi, I am Li Wenxuan, and I will now present on the impact on child development. The effects of the earthquake extended beyond immediate emotional distress and influenced multiple areas of child development. Emotionally, many children experience fear, stress, anxiety, and insecurity following the loss of loved ones and exposures to traumatic events. Without adequate support, these emotional difficulties may interfere with healthy emotional regulation and coping abilities. Cognitively, trauma-related stress affected concentration, memory, and problem-solving skills. As a result, many children find it difficult to focus on learning and academic tasks. Socially, displacement and school closure reduce opportunities for children to interact with peers, leading to loneliness and social isolations. Academically, interrupted education contributed to learning loss and reduce motivation. These findings are significant because child development is interconnected. Difficulties in one developmental area often affect other areas as well. Therefore, the impact of disaster should be understood as a developmental issue rather than only a psychological issue. And I will now pass the presentation to Ali Chung. Thank you.
Thank you, Li Wenxuan. Hi, I'm Ellie Chung. Now, I will present Erikson's psychosocial development theory, Bronfenbrenner ecological system theory, and Piaget cognitive development theory. Erikson's theory helps explain how the earthquake affects children's psychosocial development. According to Erikson, school-age children are in the stage of industry versus inferiority, where they develop confidence through learning, achievement, and social participation. However, the disruption of school and disruption of education limited opportunity for children to achieve success and develop competence. Consequently, some students may experience feeling of inferiority, frustrations, and lower self-esteem. This suggests that disaster affect more than physical environments. They can also influence children's self-concept and confidence during important stage of development. Next, Bronfenbrenner proposed that child development is influenced by several interconnected environmental systems, including family, school, community, and society. The earthquake described all of these systems simultaneously. Family experience loss and displacement. schools were damaged, communities were fragmented, and access to healthcare and support service became limited. This theory highlights that children's difficulty cannot be viewed in isolations because their development is closely connected to the environments around them. Therefore, effective recovery requires support not only for children themselves, but also for the system that influence their life. Lastly, Piaget believed that children actively construct understanding through their experience. However, traumatic events such as earthquake can challenge children's understanding of safety, stabilities, and predictabilities. Many children struggle to understand why disaster occurs and whether it might happen again. As a result, they experience confusion, fear, concentration problems, and learning difficulties. Piaget theory reminds us that children require developmentally appropriate explanations and support to help them process traumatic experience and continue cognitive development. I would now like to invite Kayla to present the final sections.
Thank you, Ellie Jung. Hello, I am Kayla Limbersin. Will present building resilience and the protective factor that buffer trauma. Although the earthquake creates significant challenge, many children are capable of recovering through resilience. Resilience refers to the ability to adapt positively and overcome adversity despite experiencing difficult circumstances. Importantly, resilience is not simply an individual trait. It is trait through supportive relationship, positive environment, and access to resources. This means that children's recovery depends not only on their personal strength, but also on the support they receive from others. Strategies such as psychological first aid, family support, school-based intervention, and community programs play important roles in promoting recovery and emotional well-being. Next, several protective factors help reduce the negative effect of trauma. Individual protective factors include optimism, self-confidence, emotional regulation, and problem-solving skill. Family protective factor includes supportive relationship, emotional warmth, and effective communication. School provides stability, social interaction, and opportunities for achievement, while communities offer social support network and access to essential service. Together, these protective factors act as buffers against adversity and help children adapt more successfully following traumatic experiences. I will now pass the presentation to Ellie Quillin. Thank you, Kayla. In conclusion, the 2023 Turkish Syria earthquake had significant impacts on children's emotional, cognitive, social, and academic development. Through the application of Erikson's, Bronfenbrenner's, and Piaget's theories, we can better understand how trauma affects children's development from multiple perspectives. However, our discussion also demonstrates that trauma does not necessarily determine a child's future outcomes. Thank you.